Inspiration Nation, hello, Lee Kemp here once again with Joe and Ryan for another week on the podcast. How are we doing, guys?
Yeah, good. I'm just getting closer to you, Lee.
That's what I like, snuggle up.
Hello, Lee.
For those watching on YouTube, it looks a bit awkward now, but we're going to roll with it.
Do you feel awkward, Lee?
Look at this, honestly, week on week, Joe's level of playfulness is going through the roof. You never would have done this back at the start.
You get a big cut as well.
I'm glad I'm over it.
One of the things that Joe does to push us out of our comfort zones is to make us, well, it started with me that we'd have a hug, wouldn't we, every time we saw each other, which is not my comfort zone. I'm getting better with it, but it's still not.
Yes.
And he cracked Ryan and got a hug out of Ryan this time as well.
And it was really interesting actually, because actually Ryan, when I came in the door, immediately went like this.
What, folded arms,
Yeah.
I knew it was coming.
Oh, Joe's coming.
By around about episode 500, you might get to where maybe me and Ryan will do that. But
Oh, well, you actually
can't
approach
see
me.
it happening.
This is it. That's the aim for me to not approach you guys. You have to approach me. That's the aim.
Episode 500 is about 4 years away.
Oh, that's not long enough, is it?
That's even longer than that now. I don't know why I said 4 years. It's like 10 years.
Oh, word. 10 years.
That still doesn't feel long enough to break
No.
down that hug barrier. Right, so thank you again for listening, everyone. Just quick reminders, we are across all platforms on Listen to IN, Listen TOIN. We love to hear comments from you. Any feedback you've got, throw us a like, give us a retweet, give us a share. Anything like that helps get our brand out there, and we really appreciate it. YouTube as well. Inspiration Nation podcast, been going for a number of weeks now. We're actually we talk each week. We're really pleased with momentum on there. So again, anything any of our loyal listeners can do to kind of increase the awareness of the show, we really appreciate. So what is the subject of the day, Joe?
Yep. So I just wanted to say, we didn't do the advert in the last podcast. We missed it, didn't we?
We did. We might do two in this one instead.
Oh, I just thought, I don't know why it popped in my head, but it just popped in. Anyway, yeah. So
that's a good production note for you listening there.
Yeah, it's a bit of inside info, inside track stuff. That. So we're going to look at the definition of energy, really. What is energy? Why is it so important to have energy in a room? Why does it make such an impact? You know, so when you're delivering training, why is it if I went in there not? People talk about energy, the energy in the room, or I just feel that energy's not up today, or don't feel I have energy. So what does that actually mean? Where's it going? I know we had a really uncomfortable podcast session yesterday. Was it episode 22? Is that right?
Is this the religion one?
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. The what is God? I found that a real challenge, but I know that as we talked to before, that was something that I need to talk about. But actually, we talked about energy a little bit in there around. Actually, when we go for our mortal core, actually, where does that energy go? So I just thought it'd be good to talk about energy, but like as and when we talk it practically in a room, but we talk about these things that we actually really can't see it. It's just something you feel. So I've just got a bit of a definition of it. When I looked at it in the Oxford Dictionary, it definitely said the power industry, good health, the universe. It says uncountable. So it almost goes back to that, where you think that the fact that that's in a definition about the universe is uncountable, the ability to put effort and enthusiasm into an activity, work, etc. So there's a lot in there in that definition, and I think it does round it off as to what we do. So when I think about energy, I never used to define it as when you go into a room and how you deliver it to people. I used to think about energy as like, it's what powers my home, electricity, or when I'm
thinking about your gas bill.
Yeah, that's my energy. But when we're talking about energy from a personal development space and inspirational space is what this podcast is about. How does it actually work? And one thing that inspired me around this was when Lee said, well, when I tell my stories, you talk about the 3 arc thing back in
yes.
I can't remember what episode it was now, but the 3 arcs about telling the story.
Yeah.
Why is it that when you've got hey guys, this is the possibilities, you set the scene, we can't do this, and then you said, I suck the energy out of the room. How does it actually happen? I know you said body language and stuff like that. So that's what I want to talk about. So let's just start with that. So how do you, when you actually said you suck energy out of the room, how did you suck the energy? So you're not physically sucking it out. I mean, you're bringing people up, bringing people down. What actually does happen? Do you think, in a logical, explainable way?
Well, let me give you an example of it right now.
Okay.
I'm going to go back to my intro I do at the start of the podcast. I'm going to do 3 versions of this. So, Inspiration Nation, Lee Kemp here again with Joe and Ryan. We're going to talk about energy today. How are you doing, guys? How does that feel? Where's the conversation going?
Yeah, that's poor. That's I'm not engaged with that. And no, I'm losing intelligence, and that's because, I get the tone and stuff. That If it was like that every week, then yeah, we would. It would be
And how
something,
would you
wasn't
respond if I was talking? Let's do it again and actually give me a response while we were on it.
it? Okay.
Because you were right. So, Inspiration Nations, Lee Kemp here. Thanks for following on Twitter. We'll give you the details later. We're going to talk about energy this week. Joe.
Yep.
See where you go.
But
You
the
can't
thing
go into your natural
The
spiel.
thing is, I could, but I'm being very consciously aware that that's what you're doing.
So
Do you know
it's
what I mean?
artificial
So
doing
I'm,
it.
look, I mean, look, you do that again, and I can show you what I mean. Do it
Okay.
again.
Take 3.
You can go, Ryan, you
God,
can
this is
start.
like the old days when you have to edit them together, Ryan, isn't it?
This is the precise. See, now you'll find struggling to find which is your almost like your trigger to get into the persona of doing this.
So
So
I'm going into my boring persona now.
Okay.
Inspiration Nation, Lee Kemp falling asleep for the third time. This week we're going to talk about energy. Joe.
Excellent. Well, we're going to talk about energy, and what we're talking about today. See, I can do it.
That's
Because-
good.
But you then seem over there enthusiastic.
Yeah.
I think that's part of my point. So the next one would be exactly that. It's Inspiration Nation. Hello, it's Lee Kemp here with Joe and Ryan, and we are talking about energy.
I actually really like that. I actually really like that. I actually love that. I don't know. I just responded to that, and I actually really love it because that actually that sort of style resonates with me a lot.
and that's it. So where you said what, and I find it difficult to articulate, like I said before, the kinesthetic thing. But that's it there. So you got excited by me talking in that way.
I like that.
And I think that's why when you say how do you set a tone for the energy in the room, it's like because I think energy, well, and a lot of this is we're talking in the personal way, but I don't think it's really any different from the actual physics style of energy, in that energy is transferable. So if you've got a lot of energy and you'll show exactly like I did there with the next example, that pushes out there to everyone. And I think with you are high energy, we do, as people, we do we are pack animals. We do follow what other people are doing, and I think in a room you can do that in high energy thing, and you will set the tone, and people will get bought into that and feel your energy, and it pushes on. Similarly, if I was to do the whole thing in that monotone thing, people will be slow, and that's where you'd see people starting to fall asleep. But when you switch from one to the other, you can start to sway the room with it as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think it is. I think it's that's why it's so important to be, like I talked about a few weeks ago, with you being self-aware of things. Your own energy will transfer onto other people, and similarly, you will pick up on other people's energy as well.
Oh yeah, I've got something to share a little bit
Yeah.
about the podcast. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, but I just want to say it for later. I think near the end, because I think there's a talk about. Anyway.
And I try, and it might get it wrong. We might try the more upbeat thing. I try and hit something if I can somewhere in the middle for the podcast, just because I think that the slow thing is going to be like, well, I'm not listening to that. My God, they sound boring. And too much energy might be too much if people are cycling through and deciding what to listen to. But we do it when we get passionate on what we're talking about. We all start talking a bit louder and a bit quicker, and that energy's there. And then I think we all feed off of each other with it.
Yeah. What about you, Ryan?
I think in terms of sucking energy out of a room and bringing energy back in, if you're leading a conversation or you're talking in front of a group of people, you're the main focus. So people will always pay attention to you. So if you're upbeat and happy, then people will be upbeat and happy back. They'll be smiley. There'll be a positive vibe in the room. But if, as Lee says, when he has to take the energy out of the room, he slows it down. He brings the people down with him. So because he's the focus, everyone will see that it's coming down, if you like. So in that sense, I think that's a good way of seeing why that works, is because that person is the main protagonist of what's happening. So for me, I can see why that works.
And I think it's a really powerful tool. And I say we use the example, because it's the thing I used the other week about giving a presentation or telling a story. But in any situation, it's there. Your energy affects people around you, and if you're aware of it, it's really useful.
Yeah.
When you're not aware of it, it can be very dangerous, I think, because if you're talking to people about something and it's something you don't like, even though you might not be telling them that will come out in every way, shape or form. And I think I remember years ago I went for a job interview at a place, and it's for what would have been a really, really good role and the sort of space that I wanted to get into, would have been the next step for the career for me. And I've been interviewed by the managing director and the operations director there, and they were saying, I mean, and to the point the guy was even saying, he said, I just don't know what it is here. This is the sort of place we should be walking around high-fiving each other, but it's just not. No one really, that doesn't really happen. It was all very
that in
negative.
itself. Was that the way he spoke?
Yeah, that, and it was.
You could tell the culture from
it
that.
was a
almost
bit
that
more and this,
conversation.
to me in my head, this is the two most senior people in the business. So if the tone isn't right, then I don't. To me in my head, I was thinking, well, they're not setting the tone. And then there was a few kind of disparaging marks about stuff that hadn't gone well and little sly comments between them. You could tell they were in a really bad... And again, they weren't directly telling me this stuff, but through reading between the lines about what they said, but more through their tone and their body language and stuff, I was just thinking in my head, this just isn't the place for me. Which actually, ironically, they're interviewing for a role they want to fill, and their own tone that they... I'm going to say weren't really in control of or aware of, actually did the opposite for what they wanted, because it put me off of it completely. And I think when you're not aware of it like that, I think it shows in every way, in all the ways we talk about in that subconscious thing.
Oh, I agree.
And it was, I was thinking to myself, is it as bad as I had in my head? But then I saw your reaction there, Joe, when I said what they said, and that's how you felt. That's what I felt at the time.
Straight away when you said that, because when you look at energy, you're looking at the energy. When you talk about energy and culture, when we talk about culture and business, if you want to set the tone for your business, it's got to be through your energy.
That's it.
And you can deliver a message. We're a really exciting, forward-thinking company. Yes. You just where is this? Even though I can hear the words,
there was no
I'm not thinking this is forward-thinking. I just don't see it. There's just no... You might be saying it, but I just don't believe it. I think that's that authenticity we talked about before, again, behind the message that gives energy as well.
Yeah.
Do you really believe, like you said, you believe in what you're doing? So I've got another example where I do, in the business that I work for, I do training, I do inductions, and if I said, welcome to XXX, if I said XXX, really great, going to get a lot of benefits, the same sort of thing. But when this group came up, I had another trainer in the room with me, because I'm showing them how to do this particular course, and I really hit people hard when they come in the room, because I'm excited about the place I work for, because I think they want to change things and it's exciting, and I feel I'm bought into that. So I'm going, that for me, I believe in it. And when I hit them on day one, my actually went, oh my god, you really did hit them hard, didn't you? Yep, that's what I do, because I need them to be on it, because it is a difficult piece of work. It's you have to be on it to go through this. It's there is a lot of information taken, and the only way they're going to get through is to one, feel the energy that they can get through it, and I'm going to carry them through it, and two, they're working for a company that's going to help them do what they want to do within the business, and that's what I'm doing there. And for me, it's you're right. If for a facilitator, you don't understand energy, I think it's a really dangerous thing. You're meant to be I'm in that room. I am the leader. I am representing the business I'm working for. And if it doesn't come from me, where is it coming from? It's not going to come from whatever they say. Tell me, it's going to come from me
as a person.
Yeah.
I last couple of weeks, I was on a course. This isn't a work course. It's an outside the work course, which is one of the worst courses you can go on. So I was on my speed awareness course.
Oh, was this a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah.
What is this?
And in fact,
this is not another one, is it?
This is my second speed
Is
awareness
it really?
course. Yes.
I thought you said to me before. But, I didn't.
No, I did one years and years and years.
right.
And actually, the one I went on years ago wasn't bad at all. I learnt stuff from it, but it was quite dry. And this one was very different. And the guy who was doing the training, it's down to him. The way he delivered the material, the way he set the tone, the energy he created in the room, because you've got a room of 20, 30 people who don't really want to be there, have paid to be there, and are going to get told you must not do this again, when they're all thinking, but actually it was 4 hours long as well, which I was like, God, that's going to be a long time. It flew by. It was to the point I would say everyone had a good time in the room. It's not just we got through it, and I think again it was all down to that, you talking about how you are with the room. The guy said he's a freelancer, he does this amongst other courses, so that he's a professional doing this, and you could tell because he just did a brilliant way of relaxing everyone, getting everyone to take it seriously, but at the same point not making it too serious. It was just perfect example of what you say there.
Yeah, and I think that's it. And I think actually part of the energy part of
I would say I'd almost go in on it again, but that would kind of contradict the point on it, wouldn't it?
speed awareness. You're not meant to go on it again.
That's-
It's like each you've been on it twice. Isn't it?
I think it's like they say the best drivers pass second time.
Oh, is that because?
Yeah,
And it's
the
also,
same.
you want to see the new material. Is that right?
So it's a bit. That's it. I just wanted to see what the world had evolved into.
But that's the thing. I mean, you might have a piece of material that actually might be very, very dry, and some of the stuff that we have to deliver, it can be very dry if you delivered it as per it's meant to be. But that's your job. That's your job to bring people along. Yes, it's you have to make that come alive for people, and I think
So no.
that's
So
an art.
energy is a huge part of what
Oh,
you do.
yeah.
Then.
Yeah, and even like I mean, I know you say, Ryan, you might say as well, like when you have to get yourself in a sort of zone for something, you might not be feeling it. So how do you? I mean, both of you guys, how do you? If you're not feeling it, how do you? What are your things that you use to feel? I know Lee, you said before you used to have to consciously get yourself in a zone, but if like you don't love energy, how do you? How do you get your energy up so you could go if you've got to go and do something or bring someone up? How do you do it? Or even for yourself, because it could be that you feel like, oh, I need to get going on this. How do you do it?
This is where I think I use my winging it techniques
Mm.
the most, because I'll just do it. If I'm not really up for it, but I have to do it, then I'll just do it, and then eventually I'll get the energy from it. So if it's a group project, for example, or a group task, I don't really feel up for it. I'll start it, and then when we're going through it, I'll find a way to, get excited about it or get motivated for it and just up my energy that way.
So you put on the energy persona, but
Yeah.
then you're lifting up your own energy through doing
By
that.
doing it,
And
yeah.
it's very similar. I was going to say it's almost I can just now, and again, like you said, I used to have to psych myself up and stuff, but I can just flick a switch and do it. And I think it is once you are upbeat, that brings everyone else along. You buy into that, but then you feed off their energy as well. And I think it's you can set that tone by doing that thing. Even little techniques I use. So like if you know sort of Joe, especially at the start of things, you ask a question and you just get that sea of faces with no one wanting to speak. And I just kind of hit that head on. I'm just going to stand here and wait in the awkward silence until someone says something, and that always gets a bit of a laugh, and everyone's that bit more relaxed, and kind of go through those steps and just. I know that by being more energetic, it will raise everyone's energy, and I think you just. Yeah, for what Ryan said, you just do it basically.
And I think the fact
It thinks too simple of an answer, but that is what the
Yeah,
answer
and
is.
and also,
Yeah.
I think acknowledging in the room that it's uncomfortable is quite
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
It's like, yes, we all know you're really uncomfortable, and that's really good because that almost releases the tension, and that allows people to become more themselves. We talked about that before about interviews and things. How do you get someone to be themselves, not interrogating people, not by being the big I am? Because it's very easy to go into a room and go, I am the person in charge here, and you're going to do what I tell you. And I've heard that of certain facilitators that have done that. I've experienced it, but I've heard of other facilitators like, oh, you should have seen them because they were like, almost like going back to school, and they were like, do this and then, don't talk here and all that sort of stuff. And that alters energy massively.
I was
hugely.
doing a session when I was trying to get people bought in, again years ago, trying to get people bought into something, and I was in the room with someone else, and kind of halfway, they obviously got fed up with the conversation leading people there and all that, and they kind of cut me off and said, look, no matter what happens, you guys have got to be doing this. And that you could just see the room slump.
Wow. Wow, I mean that's
So my partner in crime there didn't
wow, that's massive, isn't it? It's like getting the balloon going, hang on, there's a big pin, bang.
yeah.
But things like that, and like almost like it's almost like taking away. And I think another thing that energy is taking away people's control over their own situation. That's what happened there. Like you're going to do it anyway. Like, oh, I thought we were here to learn something new and stuff like that. And of course, there are things you want to take away, but you want people to develop their own energy by taking on the new thing, by experiencing something new and taking their own take on it, but making sure that the outcomes. And we talked about before about. Yes, we've got this sort of process, but like make sure it's delivered. But the outcome is the most important thing here. When we're doing this process, we've got this sort of like it's like a sheet, but provided they use it in a certain way and get this right outcome, that's what we want. It's always the outcomes are good, and that produces energy. If someone can feel good about what they're doing, that brings up their energy. Even if they feel like, oh, I don't really want to be here, you could get them brought into that process.
Yeah.
So I think I talked about that bad feedback, or not bad feedback, but number 6, and you could tell that person didn't want to be there. So But from the start, like, I'm on this training again. You know what people do? Tend to train and go, I'll tell you what we'll do to solve this problem. We'll put them on training because training's the answer to everything. No, it's not.
It drives me mental.
Yeah, and it's like
Drives
it's
me
training.
mental.
No, it's not, because it's the behavioural thing. And when you have to manage that as facilitator, it's really difficult because people are before they even come in, their energy level's like, nope. I talk about in like one of the episodes I did that. I do remember them.
Yes.
I remember I told you one of the episodes. Sitting there like that, I've had that happen in my rooms. And how do you bring that person on? I know how I would do it. Have you had any of that, like where you might have had some resistance from anybody at some point, and you had to bring them along and bring their energy levels up, or bring them on board with you by using your energy? I mean, I tend to railroad with people with energy sometimes. I use it as a real tool to really undo people a little bit, to try and help them along, because
And
almost like to
do you
feed
find
off
that
it.
works
To
with
feed
people,
off it.
though?
Yeah, I mean,
Again, it's a hit
it's
it
hitting
head
them.
on
It's like,
thing,
like
isn't it?
literally, I can see their energy low, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them energy to feed off, because they need something. And so, like, if I have someone like that who's like, usually a lot of the time, it's the people that are quite resistant, the people that know a lot of information about the thing I'm going to be talking about. I can't believe I'm on this because I know about it, and that's exactly what happened to me. So my job in that situation is to say, hey, I understand that I know unconsciously, I don't even talk to them, I can sense it in the room. So my job is to say, how can I engage this person to bring along with it? So the way I do it is I tailor it to their knowledge base. So I understand you understand. So what are your takes on it? Making it more specific to their situation, making it more, that maybe they're doing. I can't really. It's difficult for me to do that. I'm thinking about the situation, trying to do it, so we don't know really where it is. But it's specifically tailoring it to them, so they can get involved and engaged in the content. So, in respect of your role, how does that affect you? Type questions. I know you're dealing with these types of particular cases, and at this sort of level, how does that particular thing affect you in that
Making
area?
it real to them.
So yes, it's not like, oh, I've got this material and it's just very generic, and of course sometimes because you have that knowledge, you can tailor it to that person at that level, and that's the way I do it. I use almost like their knowledge to drive. I facilitate, which is I think what a trainer or a coach is, facilitate them to learn. They're there to learn. It's like a self-learn, but you're helping them to learn. You're not telling them, giving them some information. A lot of it is them self-learning, and you encourage them, help them to explore what that is, and that's giving them that energy. And you putting that energy in the room, almost like, here it is, I'm giving you a lot of energy. They will naturally want to feed off that energy, and that's how I find it. What is it for you guys?
I give an example of someone else.
Okay.
Way back in my hospitality working days,
Nice.
I used to work with someone who's a DJ, and where I used to work in hospitality on the Sunshine Coast of Eastbourne, you had a certain clientele
Nice. Yeah, I think I know what you mean.
of the older persuasion,
Yeah.
shall we say. So, people who worked in the entertainment bit of that were geared to a certain way. And this guy I worked with, he was a DJ, and it was funny because and this is where he's really good with things, because he's come in to do the entertainment for the main clientele, who their type of entertainment was a person sitting there who would play an instrument and sing or do something and get involved. And there was a lot of pushback that this guy would get of, well, he's just standing there pressing play, isn't he? God, that's not entertainment. And similarly, when we do around Christmas time and you get a lot of work parties and stuff like that, it's a completely different clientele. They'd see him as a cheesy DJ. And he said what he loved more than anything else was when he'd come out and he'd get that initial groan, and it wouldn't faze him because he could let that knock him, but he doesn't, and he just does what he does in his way. And he said without fail, by the end of the night, he's won them all round. They're all up on the dance floor. They're all getting involved. And he said he loves, he saw it as a positive challenge, that he knew he was always going to get that there, and he knew that almost every time. And he wasn't just bluster himself. I'd witnessed this from working behind the bar and seeing it going on, and he'd always win a round, always. And by the end, everyone's coming up and saying thank you and everything else like that. And in that similar sort of way, he'd just keep his energy going, and he'd eventually bring the room, that one person, he'd bring the room in from him by doing what he does in his way with his tone and his style, and worked really well.
That's so good, because again, I use sort of like almost sort of that cheesiness or whatever you talked about. I think that's quite. I'm quite cheesy, that I like my cheesiness.
But you embrace that and you make that part of your style.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was up there sitting with another trainer. I was another trainer with this course, and they said, "Oh, your dad jokes." And actually, what he did, your dad jokes. Anyway, in the middle of the week, he bought me a book, and it's a book saying dad jokes on it, and that actually broke it even more. But everybody's so on board with it They just loved it. And also when I get those sort of afternoon shifts, it's like I do this game called Evolve, and it's about like a really cheesy game, right? But like.
I can tell it's cheesy because you did jazz hands when you mentioned
jazz
hands.
Oh, Mum told me don't use my hands much. Sorry, Mum. But it's like one of these games which is really cheesy, right? Oh, we don't have to do that because you have to make a noise, you have to be a bit silly. But when you get everyone, and by the end of it, by the end of that game, everybody's doing this. You have to do rock paper scissors as well. It's quite cool. By the end of that game, everybody's loving it. Absolutely loving it. The energy in the room is so different. So I tend to use that, after a lunch thing. We bring it, and a difference in people because they're sitting there going, oh, you can feel the lull in the room. By the end of it, everyone's like on it. Even though they didn't want to do it, they just loved it, and it just works. And of course, it's about putting trust in them, of course, because it's a bit silly. It was so noisy once. We got told by another, can you keep it down? And they were like, and everyone goes, it's quite funny. We'll keep it down. But it was all quite. We were all like together as a team. It didn't really matter from the outside because we built that trust and energy. Even though they come to feel, oh, they're a bit cheeky. And I said, well, yeah, that's good. It's all right. We're together. We can still keep it down. But we can still have that energy. It's always like, even though we quietened it down, people still had that secret energy behind them because we've all been together in that.
But it's so vital and it runs through everything, doesn't it? So what's your view on or where's in your consciousness in your day to day is your energy, Ryan? Or is it?
How do I bestow energy into other people? You mean,
or kind of how does it affect you and what you do, feeding off of other people, or what you put out onto other people?
I think personally, my energy is always relatively high because, as I say, I can wing it until it happens. There'll be some times where I genuinely, no matter what I do, I won't want to do something. But if it's a work environment, then I'm paid to be there as well, so I kind of have to do it. As part of my job, no job is 100% doing things that you like to do, is it? So you have to take the rough with the smooth in that essence.
What is it that you're part of outside work? What's your trophy picture about? Was it pool?
Yeah.
Yeah, and is that a team-based thing?
Generally, yeah, but I do play a lot of kind of solo stuff.
Yeah. When you're when you're with the guys in the team, is there that sort of thing again where you kind of get that energy between you and what you're doing?
Yeah, there's good banter with all of us. I mean, it usually takes a beer or two for it to fully start to flow and get going that way. But we're all good friends as well, so it's a good indication of if one of us isn't really up for it, we know how to get them up for it. We're like, come on, what's the matter with you? Let's just have a beer or whatever and we'll have a chat. But it's more a case of, because we know we're going to be spending the evening or the afternoon or whatever with your mates, it makes it more fun, so you're more wanting to do it.
Yeah, and if someone's down and out or something, you're almost rallying around that person. Yeah. And it's exactly the same example as a training room there, is your guys' energy will pull that person in.
Person through, yeah.
Similarly, if 5 of you came in all feeling miserable, it'll probably go the other way.
Yeah, of course. That's if we have to play on a Sunday morning or something like that. But, yeah, but generally we're all in a good energy and a good mood as it is, because we know that we're going to be spending the time with our mates, and that's what it's about. It's not about necessarily winning all the time, or even though we are relatively good. It's about
nice plug for yourselves there.
Yeah, cheers. So it's about
where did you find this team?
It's about spending time with your mates. That's the primitive. That's the primary element. Spend time with your mates, and whatever comes off the back of it comes off the back of it.
It's like the tribe thing you mentioned in the previous podcast. Like the tribe, bring each other up.
Before I lose traction on it, I'm going to say, speaking of plugs, and the plug I forgot to do last week, if you get up your Google machine and you put in JN Coaching Technologies, it'll bring you up to Joe's websites. There's lots of materials, lots of resources. A lot of things we talk about are on there. There's Joe's weekly blog that you can sign up for, comes out to you. There's a link to Joe's videos that he does, and as we say, coaching is what Joe does. He does want to help you. If you're interested in linking in with Joe's services, you can contact him through the website as well. That is JN Coaching Technologies.